Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of the Fast and Furious Files. I'll be your host today, Patrick, and joining me is my partner sitting shotgun.
My name's Jonathan, and I'm hungry.
That's right, we hungry today, and that's because we're talking about a very fun installment, the second installment, and that's Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too hungry.
Too hungry. Obviously, one of the most quotable installments in the Fast and Furious series.
Can't agree.
And we'll be just breaking down the plot and all our little fun observations and little facts and things we learned about it along the way. Too Fast, Too Furious was released on June 6, 2003. And we have a new director in the seat today. We have John Singleton, who you might know from such Academy Award-nominated films as Boys in the Hood and Higher Learning and 2000 Shaft, starring Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, so, I mean, he comes with a lot of acclaim.
And he came in this franchise as a very big fan because he was like glowing with his praise for the first Fast and Furious. Like he was actually a little jealous he didn't come up with the idea himself because growing up in L.A., he saw a lot of street racing as a kid and was a big fan of it. So like this is very much up his alley, and he wanted to be a big part of this series. We are missing Vin Diesel in this film. And because apparently he was asked to come back, he declined. He had other films to make, like Chronicles of Riddick and Triple X.
Yeah, and I've heard there was a rumor that he read the scripts for this movie and was like, "This is shit," and then left, and then was like, "No, I ain't doing this."
No, we'll say that part is true. Apparently, years later, looking back, he does sort of regret being so hasty to bounce because apparently, even though he wasn't as high in the script, he felt like if he could do it all over, he'd be willing to go ahead with the movie because he felt like there was an obligation to the audience to make it the best movie he could.
Yeah.
So, which we appreciate that sentiment.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he more than well made up for it with the bullshittery with the rest of the franchise.
Yeah, definitely, because there are a lot of new faces and some old faces as well. We see Paul Walker returning as former cop Brian O'Connor, now street, illegal, miscreant, hoodlum, hero guy.
Yeah, he is a man with a lot of many talents.
That's right. And what makes this movie a little interesting, because it had a little bit of a prequel going into the movie. There is the Too Fast. What was that long ass name for it?
It was like the prelude to Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, turbocharged prelude to Too Fast, Too Furious, which is like 5-6 minutes of like Paul Walker's character wordlessly traveling across like from California to Miami, like just making big bucks by racing in the streets. And I just loved like the whole let's just say Adobe After Effects level like effort put into like the transitions in that prequel, where it's just like highway signs and map overlays and he's just putting along.
Oh yeah, it was you can tell they did not put the same amount of effort as they did the movie, which, as we'll get into, doesn't look like they put a lot of effort into.
Man, this movie is something else.
It really is.
Of course, we'll get into it, but the movie is fun. Don't mistake that for anything. The movie is a lot of fun, but man, does it feel worlds different from the first movie.
Oh, yeah. It went from, like, the first movie, which was this, I don't know how to describe it. Not Bonnie and Clyde, but it's this, band of thieves together, family.
It's a family picture.
But it goes from that to basically Miami Vice, like a dollar store ripoff of that.
Yeah, well, that to me, that's another one of the big strange things about Too Fast, Too Furious is that not only do you have like this kind of 80s inspired like buddy cop kind of scenario, which is very indicative and very popular in the 80s, but like this whole movie is just this weird melange of time periods.
Yeah, because it while you, like you said, the 80s like type of Miami Vice type of cop show is present here. Out of the movies I've seen so far of the franchise, this one is the most like early 2000s cool And I say cool in air quotes.
Yeah, because like to me, somehow this feels more aged than the first Fast and Furious, where that came out in 2000, or excuse me, 2001. Because not only do you have the whole like 80s vibe from the plot, you also have this weird 1970s like aesthetic in a lot of the places where they shoot, and just sort of like the color palette, which is also very hyper saturated and just really eye popping. And also this weird, can't really put into words, like 90s filter on it that made it feel like it's made in like the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, and I think part of that just might have to do with them filming, or I don't know if they filmed in Miami, but the movie is set in Miami.
So
like the first movie, there like the LA has some grit to it. Mm-hmm. But like you were saying, like there is this sort of like post-processing filter over the entire thing that just feels like mid-late 90s hip-hop album type thing.
Somehow like a drug-induced Saved by the Bell or something.
Yeah.
It's one of the many weird and idiosyncratic things about this movie, which in one hand is very sort of entertaining and even endearing, and by other hand it's just one of the many things that just doesn't gel and just sort of weighs the movie down. It's a weird simultaneous effect.
Yeah, but like sort of getting into the movie proper, and tying that into the turbocharged prelude to Too Fast, Too Furious. Like honestly, like I feel like you could have put the prelude as sort of like the opening credits to the movie.
Yeah, like the credits overlay, like obviously put a little bit more effort into it.
But, like not like transpose it like directly, but you know, something to that effect, and probably nowhere near as long, like maybe like 90 seconds or something like that.
Because we know obviously Brian O'Connor, he's a wanted man now for aiding and abetting the Toretto gang, and so he has to get out of Dodge. So as explained in the prequel, he sort of makes his way to Miami because, like, of course that's a whole country away essentially. Allows them sort of to lay low.
And it's not like the audience can't figure out how, like, or just sort of fill in the gaps of like, okay, when he left L.A., he came here, sort of thing. But I don't know. I feel like that would be like a little extra detail that would sort of added. It would really add that bridge from the first to the second movie. Mm-hmm. That's just not there in the theatrical release. Like there's an extended version, but
yeah. But he's in a new town, but he still has his old habit. So he's still very much into the illegal street racing gang. So we see a new lineup of characters at the start of a racing line. We have the ringleader of the operation. We have Tej, played by Ludacris, his debut in the series as like big Afro man in a mechanic's jumpsuit, and he's taking money and he's catching winks from everybody around. And we see the colorful lineup of racers. We have Orange Julius, just like this flirtatious Hispanic character.
And before you continue, like the names of like the characters in the race to begin with feel like what a white person thinks is gangster.
Yeah, like I don't know who came up with these, and like
because you got like Orange Julius, then what was the other?
Slapjack.
I was like, Jesus.
Michael Ealy's character, who's just like this quasi hen pet racer in the game.
Yeah.
And then we have Devin Aoki, who is the cutesy, hot, I guess, the fan service character for the movie. Well, she's still a really cool character, but I kind of feel like she's relegated to like eye candy more or less.
Yeah, and I don't know. In much of the race that we're going to get to, she's sort of relegated to the back.
Yeah. Which,
it's later, you know, throughout the race, you see, oh, yeah, she's actually a very capable driver. It's 2003. So,
like, it's 2003, and plus, you know, considering, I guess, what may be the target audience, I don't know if we're in the position for strong female protagonists just yet.
Just yet. They can't show up the men just yet.
Just yet.
And same as the last movie, God beauty standards for women back then, I felt so bad for them because they needed a goddamn Big Mac.
Because like every woman in the movie is just worryingly thin. I'm afraid like a breeze is gonna blow by and knock them into the street.
Yeah, and it's not like it's an unhealthy type of thin too, where you feel like, oh, this is just because Hollywood pressures put on them, and it's like, 2003, I guess.
It was certainly a year, wasn't it?
We invaded Iraq. You know, it was a fucking swell time.
A lot of things happen, but what to do? We have 3 racers. We need one more. So Ted calls up his old pal Brian O'Connor, and he brings this slick new ride to the starting line, and
his neon skyline.
I think so.
Yeah, where like I was reading up on it, and they said that that car wasn't released in the States for like legal reasons.
Yeah.
So he like that's why Brian O'Connor's character, when he's driving that car, is on like technically like the wrong side in America sense. Like it's on the passenger side.
Yeah. Because I made the joke. It's like, Brian, you're driving on the wrong side of the car.
Yeah.
But I do remember hearing that they had to kind of disguise the car when they were bringing it over.
Oh fuck!
Because like it was a very early model, and it wasn't supposed to be widely released, so it had to kind of like use some subterfuge to get it across the pond. So they hit the ground running. They head off onto the streets, and you see you just see the banter between all the racers. But what makes the banter so weird? It feels like they are all filmed separately, and they just had like these random like quips that they just sort of threw together. Like it almost feels like it doesn't even match what's going on in a way.
Yeah,
it just feels very disjointed.
Yeah, a lot of it, like you said, feels very disjointed, and this is just sort of something that is, I don't want to say a problem because it leads to like some great moments unintentionally, but a lot of this movie does feel improv. Like a lot of scenes feel very improv heavy.
Well, I know John Singleton, he did give the cast like a lot of room to ad-lib, so that might be an explanation for it. He's like he gave them a lot of freedom. Yeah,
and some characters are better than others, but none of them are Robin Williams. Let's just say that.
Not everybody can just pick it up and drop it down as easy as some others can. Like we said, there's a lot of twists and turns in the raid, and probably we get to one of the first hot quote of the night.
Oh my god! Yeah,
where there's a Tej has a big finale for the race. He and his boys, they break into the drawbridge and they raise the bridge, so it's up to the racers to make that last jump to get back to the finish line. And one racer bows out. He's like, "Fuck this shit!" And so
Mr. Orange Julius,
yeah, he's a punk. You can't risk his car. So Paul Walker, Brian O'Connor, and then Slapjack. Yeah. They're the ones that hate the bridge first, and then somehow Brian just overtakes his car in the air, like over the top of it.
Yeah, because Brian O'Connor, he's saving his fucking nos for that final stretch. Fucking Slapjack nos too early. He prematurely inoculated.
So they both hit, but his car spirals out of control and lands into the product placement board, Pepsi, and he just eats shit.
Yeah, and that's also to talk about, like, even more so than the last movie, there's a lot of really dated CG with a lot of the cars.
Yeah, because like throughout the race, you see like it'll cut to like these CG cars just like pedaling ahead of each other, one just like back and forth. But just seemed like an odd touch. And then whenever they go like into NOS mode, it has like this almost Millennium Falcon like hyperspace like blur.
Yeah, they like visibly like pull back in their seats. And
it's like a cartoon. They're being like pressed into the back of their headrest.
Yeah, and like some of the shots, I feel like would make sense why you would use CG. It would look cooler if it was practical, but for safety reasons, I get, because there were like a lot of like really tight turns these cars were making, and you could really tell it was CG, which I think lends to the more dated aspects of this movie, or at least how it feels more dated.
You definitely feel that. But as Paul Walker lands and he crosses the bridge, Suki, Dave Aoki's character, is right behind him. She notches herself over the bridge. First hot line of the night, smack that ass!
Smack that ass. Unprompted. Just
apropos of nothing, really.
It's like I said earlier, where I feel like these characters' names feel like they were created by some white dude who thought that was gangster. I feel like this was created by some like middle-aged white dude who thought this was hip and cool.
I would like to see what the writer's room looked like. It's just like John Singleton, he's at the head of the table, and then like there's at least 3 or 4 like I would say like Jamie Kennedy level of just like white rapper kind of people.
And at the head of the table is just one of those like cigar smoking executive types. And it's like, what if we call the guy Slapjack? Son, I like the way you think. We're going to put that in.
And he's just like over stirring a glass of whiskey in the other hand, just like it's just splashing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so she crash lands her car. Her tail is all broken up, and she speeds away as the second place winner. And a cool bit I thought was interesting is that Paul Walker did a lot of his own driving stunts in the movie, like the scene where he power slides to the finish line in front of all the people. That's something he genuinely did.
Oh, okay.
Because he's a very skilled driver, and he kind of really wanted to show what he was able to do, and that was just one of the many feats he was able to accomplish in the movie.
Yeah, I knew he was like really into like this like sports cars and racing and stuff like that, but it was really cool.
Well, an interesting thing I read about the whole race sequence that apparently John Singleton took a lot of inspiration for this race from anime. Actually,
I can see it.
So apparently, anime and Gran Turismo were his inspirations for the first race in the movie.
Okay.
Very appropriate because you have like a very anime. Because like Suki being like she's the cute Japanese girl. Even her little HUD, I guess, on her car had like a little kawaii desu anime girl in it.
Yeah.
And she has her hot pink hot girl car.
And like even more so than the first movie, like in mostly this race, it feels like every racer is a fucking Power Ranger because they have this very, very stark, bright neon color that represents them. And
like they also have like a very like exaggerated personality.
Yeah, to sort of match that whatever they think that color represents.
So just imagine if Power Rangers Turbo had like a Fast and Furious cut.
Yeah.
So whenever like the evil bad guy, the cocaine lord, starts wrecking up the city, all the cars like race into each other and just form a Megazord.
Which by Fast 10, if we don't get a fucking Gundam in this shit, I'm going to fucking riot. We better go to space, and I better see a fucking car robot.
Yeah, like even though Vehicle Voltron suck, they'll make it cool.
For real, give me fucking Megazords, damn it.
Now, see, what a side bit that I like that what I think is going to unintentionally and intentionally happen with this series is that John and I are going to like fantasy book the final. God damn it! I keep saying Final Fantasy X. Fantasy book Fast and Furious 10. Like, what will be the epic finale? We already have the bad guy. That's Dom's long lost dad. And there's gonna be a Megazord formation in the movie as well. We'll just cut together all our fantasy books and make it one extra episode at the end.
Hell yes.
So of course Brian is the winner. He gets that fat stack of cash, and then of course you see Ludacris make some oblique car reference to fucking.
Yeah, when he walks up to Suki's. It's like something about, hey, I need to fix that front end or something like that.
Yeah, you need to come by, bring that body by the garage. I can check the front end.
Yeah, and she's like, well, you don't have the right tools.
It's like, are they talking about fucking?
I don't know. Is this what they call a double entendres?
Entendre, oh my gosh.
But meanwhile, like before and after this race, Eva Mendes is in the crowd. And they make a point to be like, here's Eva Mendes.
It's like, look at Eva Mendes. She's important to the plot.
Spoiler alert, she's really not.
Honestly, she's kind of not.
She's just there.
I'm sure she got paid very well for this role.
So yeah, everything seems good and dandy, and then the fucking Popo shows up.
Then Brian O'Connor is on the other end of the law, and he gets scooped up and carried away to Miami Vice headquarters.
But you are forgetting a very important detail about this, where how they catch Brian O'Connor with their fucking sci-fi EMP bazooka grappling gun thing.
Yeah, like that is such a weird thing that happens in this movie, just like this extra, like literally, like it looks like a Nerf gun that shoots like a claw toy machine claw out the front that fries all the circuitry in the car.
Yeah, and it looks like something out of a cyberpunk setting. So it's like present day 2003 Miami, and you're just seeing them whip out this like fucking sci-fi weapon.
And with like, there's no explanation as to why this is here, and it's like cars are so high tech, they have these mecha guns to compete.
Yeah, and like at first, just like, okay, like, you know, this is like the federal government. This is the feds, you know. They probably have access to this shit. But then like, at the end of the movie in the big chase, the fucking like regular Miami Popo fucking have these things.
I don't know.
All I'm saying is defund the police.
For real, because like they have sci-fi weapons now too, so fuck that shit.
This is what they mean when they say the militarization of the police. It's bad.
Yeah,
but all joking aside, it's really bad. Defund the police.
Yes,
fuck them.
defund the police. So Brian's at the police, and he's getting grilled, and we see his old commanding officer, Bilkins, come in and sort of like, hey man, I got a little situation you might be able to help with.
Yeah, and it looks like, what is the fucking organization? It's like the customs agency led by Dexter Morgan's dad. I don't know who the actor's name is or the character. But
I think the character's name was Markham. Not that it's very important.
No, because I mean he's just kind of your typical like hard ass federal officer dude.
Yeah, like the hard ass like lead agent who just makes everybody's job that much more difficult.
Yeah, and I mean he does some like really stupid shit later in the movie, but I couldn't help but just think like, Dexter, you gotta live to your code. Do not kill. Yes, Dad, I will not kill. Even though I really want to, I want to fucking kill him. Oh my god.
It's like, I didn't know we were getting Dexter spoilers.
Yes, for the premise of the show.
I was going blind, goddammit.
No, you don't. Don't watch it. It's a waste of time. There's like 3 good seasons, and then the rest of it's poo-poo.
Well, I feel like HBO has a bad track record of having long-running shows. That the first 3 are probably solid, and the rest are really questionable.
That's actually Showtime.
Uh-oh.
But HBO does have that problem.
Whoops. Does that mean we should arrest George R. R. Martin, too?
No, but we should arrest D&D, because they're fucking hacks.
Uh-oh. And that's why they'll never get Star Wars, so fuck them.
Fuck them.
Well, speaking of getting fucked, there's a bad guy they have to try to catch. Is this, well, I don't know his name because he's that memorable of a bad guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, this movie is not, like, technically great. But of all the things of this movie that are just, like, bad but not in the fun way, it's this fucking villain guy because he's so, like, generic.
Carter Verone, that was
Carter Verone, yeah. And he's just, like, this white guy playing a Mexican drug lord. He's trying to do his best Tony Montana.
Yeah, but he comes off as threatening as a dumbass who's watched Scarface too many times and beat off to it, and suddenly he thinks he's the hardest guy in town.
Yeah, it's hard to buy that this guy is a threat.
He just looks like some rich asshole.
and maybe that's why he's a threat, because he's just a fucking rich asshole.
So, but the whole thing is he's got a lot of drugs and a lot of bad news circling around Miami, so they need to find a way to get into his organization and stop him.
And it turns out he's looking for drivers. So initially they're like, Brian, you're hooking up with this guy.
Chud.
Agent Chud McDunn over here.
And he's just a simpleton and just kind of like, yes, sir, no, sir, and just drinking this fat-ass big gulp the whole fucking meeting.
Yeah, which I feel like the only reason that was there was for the shitty one-liner Paul Walker gives. Because they're like, okay, you're going to be partnered with this guy. And the guy's like, all right. And he walks up to him. He's like, for my Nissan Skyline, should I put in a Gallo 24 or a Gallo 12? And the guy's like, 24? And what does Paul Walker says something stupid.
It's like, I didn't know pizza place sold auto parts. Because
yeah.
the gag was the guy was so unobservant, he didn't realize that Gallows was the name of the pizza place he went to. And so he knows jack shit about cars and jack shit about his own personal day.
Yeah.
So he just gets the rub. But he needs someone more competent, someone who knows cars and knows how to drive.
And that's when we go to Barstow, baby.
To a demolition derby rodeo.
Yes.
And we're introduced to the co-lead and obviously like a really good addition to the franchise, and that's Tyrese Gibson.
Yeah, and I mean, him and Ludacris are the best things about this movie. I mean, Ludacris is not in the movie that much, but like Tyrese is like legitimately great and like legitimately funny. Because
you can really tell that those who were given the leeway to ad lib, like Tyrese, he obviously excels in just like going off the mouth and just like having some really good content. And the people who aren't really big on this entry, they always praise the banter between Paul Walker and Tyrese Gibson.
Exactly. And even like the unintentionally funny moments are still charming because you buy the chemistry between these two guys. You feel like they have been, or they were at least friends at one point.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like anyone in Eva Mendes in this movie.
Yeah, so just someone who looks pretty but kind of relegated to just sort of standing around.
Yeah, like she just kind of stands there the entire movie, but they're all worried about, has she turned?
Because
she turned because she's an undercover cop.
Because she infiltrated Verone's organization, so she's like in bed, so she knows like all the deep down dirty stuff, and she's
literally and figuratively.
Yes, because she's very deep undercover, so she knows how to get the guys in. But we just need to convince Tyrese Gibson's character to actually participate in this because he has a grudge against Paul Walker's character, and that's because he got locked up for a few years, and he thinks it's because Paul Walker's character ditched him.
Yeah, because it was like a few months after Brian O'Connor became a police officer.
So he was like, you said, not that he set him up, it was sort of like, you didn't protect me, you didn't help me when I got picked up. So that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they have a big brawl in a dusty, dirty sandlot.
where Brian tells his FBI handler, he's like, whatever happens, just let it happen. And the guy, and the FBI handler's like, I was just going to let that happen anyway. What the fuck you thinking?
So he just gets clocked across the face and have this weird quasi-MMA throw down in the dirt.
You just see Joe Rogan in the back. It's like, hey man, have you seen this jujitsu?
God.
Hey man, have y'all tried DMT?
Jesus Christ, shut up.
Have you tried DMT while doing jujitsu?
That's an awful, terrible person. Jesus.
Ayahuasca while doing DMT while doing jujitsu. Okay.
That sounds like a great way to shit your pants. There's a very trepidatious alliance that's been formed. Roman Pierce, Tyrese Gibson's character, he decides reluctantly to go along with the organization, with the plan, because Customs needs two badass drivers to win Verone's favor and become his courier to get all of his drugs, and so I'd be the way in.
Yeah, and at this point he's on house arrest, so his angle with the whole thing is like, okay, you get this ankle off of me and you wipe my record, then we're cool. I'll do this for you. But another just like funny aspect about this movie is just random continuity errors where like the FBI guy in like the previous parts of the scene does not have a bag of popcorn, but then it like cuts away for a few minutes and then cuts back to him and he just has a bag of popcorn.
And so it was, Because they were at the rodeo, but I don't remember him having a bag. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
Maybe.
Or he did. I feel like he didn't have it when they're walking out and when they met Pierce. Then when he goes to sit down at Pierce's mobile home outside of the rodeo derby, he's just munching away on popcorn. And our joke was, people are eating a whole lot in this movie, and a lot of it's just like, they're just all of a sudden eating. So our thought was, well, obviously they just picked it off the floor and started munching.
I mean, and the thing is, this is not the only time that happens. We noticed this like 2 or 3 other times where it will cut back to a character who just magically has food in their hand.
So, because Tyrese Gibson's, I guess, unintentional catchphrase in the movie is "we hungry," and evidently that's more true than they realize.
Oh, yes. So, they explain the situation to Roman Pierce, and they finally get to generic bad guy's place, his little Miami villa, and then there's just like this random assortment of degenerates that they're having to race against. Like one, it looks like a greasy Italian guy.
Yeah, like he just looks like this stereotypical like middle-aged dude who wants to look tough, so he has like this Ed Hardy bullshit on, and his like gross friend are just like towering over everybody.
Yeah, who looks like he belongs in like a Godsmack cover band.
And so they're at the Miami Vice Villa, and then we see Verone for the first time. He lets everybody know, hey, if you get to my secret impounded car and get the thing inside, we'll let y'all be my courier. So everybody takes off running and gets to their car, and it has this big chase down the highway to get to Verone's impounded car. And you see just the zip-zopping around, everybody sort of like showing off and like and pissing off everybody, which inexorably leads to like the first major death in the movie.
That is uncharacteristic. Like there are some like really like gruesome and just brutal parts to this movie, because like the rest of it's like pretty like cartoony and fun and, you know, PG-13, and then there's just these like brief bits of brutality. It's like, what the fuck did I just stumble into?
Because like it happened so suddenly, and it's not major like, oh, this is a major character. It's just like it's a big over the top death, because Brian and Roman, they're trying to get away from all the bad guy cars, and one bad guy car, he gets caught in the middle of 2 semis, and he's trying to wiggle his way out, and it inevitably gets kind of pushed underneath the back tires of that semi and just gets fucking mashed and killed like a son of a bitch. He looks like Mark McGrath. He got fucked up.
Oh yeah, and then another car slams into the debris. That person eats shit.
And but what I did find out is that whole bit of the red car like getting run underneath the semi, that was a legit accident. John Tinkle just kept the footage in.
I take it there was no one in the car.
No, there wasn't an actual death, but like that car being destroyed was not planned. They decided to keep the footage.
Which, I mean, it's fucking gnarly.
And also, apparently, this movie follows Star Trek rules. So, red car, red shirt, first to die.
Dead. And meanwhile, like, while guys are literally getting eviscerated by semi-trucks, like, Brian and Roman, they're like doing these, like, car tricks. Like, Brian, like, flips his car around, is driving in reverse, and they're flipping each other off.
So, like, just, like, no mind of danger, really. Like, all these people are literally trying to kill them on the road. And they're just like, haha, fuck you, bro. It's like, whatever, cuh. And they're just, like, driving backwards and just, like, what does this all mean? It's just no concept of self-preservation.
Not to mention, like, that car would not be going that fast in reverse. Like, and then there's, like, a moment before this with Brian O'Connor's character. Brian O'Connor and Ava Mendez character, where he does he stares at her while driving really fast and then stops at the stoplight.
Because that was when they were first getting to Miami. Just thinking of if you thought they were flagrant and they're against the rules of the road in their first movie, they're like a whole other level in this one. Just like, don't give a fuck, because like you said, they're having like this weird like sexy game of chicken in the car because they're like making direct eye contact with each other as he's just like flooring it the whole time, and then he's like stops dead on a dime.
And then Tyrese pulls up next to him and is like, he pulled the staring at you while he's driving trick. I taught him that.
Stealing my game. So they blow through the impound lot. Paul Blart is just like, oh, I ain't fucking with that.
Paul Blart.
Because like the big dumpy security guards, it's just like Paul Blart.
Yeah, because they like run through the gate and he's just like, fuck this shit. And so they get there, and they get, it's like this little red car, and they get out, and you know they're doing their like Chad strut,
they're just like chest out, just sticking their pecs out, swinging their shoulders back,
and then fucking Tyrese just takes off his shirt to see his like just fucking amazing pectorals and abs,
just like ripped abs. And they've got way better abs than Paul Walker does in this movie.
Yeah, and initially you're just like, wait, why are you taking your shirt off, my guy? And then he wraps the shirt in.
Wraps it around his hand to bust out the window.
But then it turns out the door was unlocked. So literally, it was just to show his abs.
Just to show how extra Tyrese Gibson is in the movie.
Yeah, so they get the package, and then the other guys pull up, and they're like, and the other guys are like, fuck it. They pull out their Glocks, they're ready to shoot them. And then, guess who shows up?
But the cops.
The cops!
And just like, why are the cops here? The fucking hard-ass cop he's trying to muck everything up, and then is this where Roman just pulls out his own Glock and starts like firing around everywhere?
Oh, he's firing at the police cars, and he's just like, fuck it, A-cab, bam, bam, bam.
So the cops drive off and the bad guys drive off, and
because the reason the cops show up is because the cops think they're running off, even though it's like they got. I don't know.
You know they have to play the part in order for them to get into the business, right?
And I say that doesn't make sense, but that is cop logic. Like fucking cops would do that shit. So
they have the prize in the hand. They go back to the fucking villain house and it's like, thanks for my picking up my little prize. And it was just like his fucking stogie, like his fucking bougie ass like cigar
cutter
and container, because he's just that fucking rich. And while they're at the table, of course, everybody's making eyes at Eva Mendes. And something I thought was funny, the whole time, every time Brian gets a little like bedroom eyes at Eva Mendes, like Roman immediately gets jealous.
Yeah, like when they're walking to the table to meet with bad guy dude, like Tyrese is just like, hey man, you checking her out? I ain't checking her out. Yeah, you're checking her out. I ain't checking her out. You're checking her out. You're looking at her ass, my dude. I'm not looking at her ass. What do you mean? You're looking at her ass? I don't know what you're talking about.
That just a whole bit, because like literally every time it's like this weird dueling thing that goes on to the whole movie. Like he's just like, man, that's my bro. We can't be checking nobody out.
Yeah,
because there's no gay subtext between Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, so they need gay subtext between the new lead.
I mean, I'm just saying, I buy it much more than him and Eva Mendes. Just saying.
So yeah, we just have the cardboard cutout of a girlfriend. So God damn it, give us more gay intrigue in these action movies.
God damn it, they fucking took notes from the J.R.R. Tolkien way to write dude bros.
So they succeeded in getting the cigar back, and now they're kind of in. They won his approval, his notice, but I think it's time to move on to a bigger job. And so, like, how do they really move on from here?
Yeah, so then they go back to the FBI and Customs safe house, and of course there's a big kerfuffle because Dexter's dad and Tyrese, they're like. It's like, why do you shoot at us? Well, why the fuck did you show up? And blah, blah, blah. And
you're going to blow our cover, dude.
And Paul Walker's like, dude, he shot you to save you.
And Tyrese is like, fuck you. I'm eating your burrito.
He's like, that's mine. Ya point?
He just like dead ass eye contact and just starts chowing down.
Yeah, and this is already after the fact that Tyrese has been saying, I'm hungry like 5 times. because he said it during the whole conversation with him and them and the bad guy table, and then he's just like, "Fucking, I'm eating this fucking burrito." And because after this, it kind of like this is where it kind of gets like the events get jumbled in my mind because there's like another race.
Yeah, because they realize the FBI's keep screwing with them because or they're just getting in their way. They won't let them do what they need to do. And then they realize the FBI is keeping tabs on us with GPS in our cars, so we need to do what we need to do without them getting caught underfoot. So we need to find a way to either get the GPSs out. But good thing we know a guy in town that works on high-end cars. So they go to Tez's garage on a riverside villa.
Yeah, while they're like having jet ski races.
Yeah. Like I feel like this movie keeps teasing like a water-bound version of a Fast and Furious video because like when they're coming into town, there's a big shot of like a speedboat, and then they're having jet ski races. So where's the water sports edition of Fast and Furious?
I'm sure at one point we're going to get a fucking submarine. So like it's coming, and when they go to see Chej, there's this juxtaposition between two shots that is just unintentionally amazing. So we're seeing this jet ski race and seeing this guy fucking eat shit. He falls off and he's like tumbling on the surface of the water. Hard jump cut to just ass.
Just like this girl's like her whole ass as she's turning over to tan. And it's an amazing choice of editing. Just like some guy probably breaks his neck going 90 miles per hour, and you just see ass.
The Kuleshov effect in motion.
Because
what meaning do you derive from the juxtaposition between these two shots?
Life and death. Because obviously it's the death of this racer.
Yeah, because like when I say he eats shit, he eats fucking shit.
And then of course, ass is life,
I guess.
And which is like sidebar here. It's like that's another sort of technical issue with the movie. It's just like really weird editing choice and just like just hard sudden cuts.
Yeah, it's real. Like the thing with editing is good editing is usually editing you don't notice. It's sort of like sound design.
Yes.
Sort like once you start noticing, usually that's when it's like, oh, this is not good. And so there's a lot of like weird jarring cuts that they're just not like, I don't know how to describe, not like incongruous with each other.
Yeah, like that's just like one of the hallmarks of the movie that really set it aside from the first one, because we're not going to sit here and say the first Fast and Furious was cinema, but like it feels there's just so much about Too Fast that's just noticeably different from the first one.
Yeah, and like less than competent editing is one of them. And I think that's another thing that leads to just how dated this movie feels, on top of just like the CG, the just overall color palette, and the fucking bizarre editing choices. But so they, Tej's guy, this little Asian guy, who apparently was like a very prominent Asian rapper at the time.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot his name, but looks at the cars. It's like, yeah, these things are just fucking bugged to hell and back.
So we need to find a way to get good fast cars. But I will say, before we move to the next scene, I did think it was a funny bit, because like Suki, she's part of the gang, so she's hanging out and she's drawing her car. And Roman's like, "Oh man, that's a really good drawing." And I'm thinking like, "Hey girl, can you draw me?" And she just draws a car with his face on it.
You honk the horn and it just says, "We hungry, we hungry." But God, I just it's like fucking Thomas the Tank Engine with fucking Tyrese Gibson.
But no, but like because the CG is so low tier, it's like JJ the jet plane.
Oh God. God, this fucking Chimera is freaking me the fuck out.
And you saying their mechanic was a rapper, like a kind of like a name rapper. Ludacris was actually a pretty small name until this movie.
Really? I thought he already.
Well, he wasn't unknown, but he didn't have his presence like he does now. I mean, like he had like his hot song "Move, Bitch," but when this movie came out, what some people say that song got him into the movie in a certain respect, because they were going to try to get Ja Rule back, but he said he was too big for the role. He's too big for Fast and Furious.
Look at you now, Ja Rule. You're mispronouncing Mediterranean cuisine for a mom and pop shop. So.
But, you know...
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, because I really feel like this movie helped raise Ludacris up.
Yeah, and, I mean, and the theme song for the movie is really good.
Yeah, because he lent a lot of his music to the soundtrack for the movie. And, you know, Ludacris is still a very well-known name today. And... we keep getting these little snippets of like a mysterious backstory for Tez's character, like, oh, he used to be in the racing game, but he had a bad crash, so he's just taking the money now, and there might be a bit more to his stories. We'll find out later
as he becomes world-class hacker. But in this movie, he's just like a awesome mechanic, and I guess all sorts of race booker.
Yeah, he's basically he's the go-to guy for any sort of like non-deadly illegal activity.
Like, I imagine if the movie was longer, it would cut back to him again, but instead of jet skis, he'd just be doing horse races. And you know, instead of everybody in like fucking bikinis and, you know, the boobies hanging out, they're just like in Victorian garb with giant fans.
It's just like smash cuts to like girls with like their big Sunday hats on.
Yeah. Tej, what are you doing? Man, I just got to make money.
he has his weeds and everything.
Who's got money on bitch titties? So yeah.
They go for another race, and who do they try to con out of the cars but the Boomer Doomer trio?
Mr. Greasy Italian guy and Godsmack.
And so they have a midnight race to sort of jack their cars because, of course, these two illicit drivers, they're going to have fast muscle cars. So that's what they try to do.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, no, they got American muscle. We're not going to be able to beat that. And, you know, it's movie. They beat them.
Using the power of
plot.
The power of plot and NOS. You can guarantee that every time someone uses NOS that we scream it in the house when we're watching.
Like I said, you just take shots every time they say family, every time they use NOS. I mean, you would have to get your stomach pumped.
Every time there's just a gratuitous ass shot.
Yeah. Anytime Tyrese Gibson says we hungry. Yeah, I mean, no, in this movie they don't really say family. At least not like the way Vin Diesel does in the rest of the series.
Unfortunately not. There's just not high in the family.
Well, that's why this movie is objectively worse, Pat.
God.
We need more family.
So of course the Goodfellas they procure the cars and they get ready to move on to the next part of their big scheme. But before they can really set into motion their plan, the bad guy's plan starts to take precedent. And so he invites the duo out for a night on the town.
Yeah, so they go to this club that looks like it's in this gymnasium that's souped up to be a 60s go-go parlor.
Yeah, like there's like a lot of orange and white and just very, again, weird, dated aesthetics.
So that they walk in the door, and it leads to line number 3 of just top 10 quotes of all time.
And so you see Tyrese and Paul, they're in the club to see like just like all the dancing and all the cool people, and just see like just a whole swath of just like gorgeous women having a good time, which leads to the aforementioned amazing quote: "It's a oasis in here."
Mwah. Chef's kiss, perfect.
And then sort of Eva Mendes shows up as the attaché for Verone, and she sort of leads the gang through the club. And of course Tyrese is instantly mad because like his bro is not paying him any mind.
Yeah, so, eventually old discount store Tony Montana calls them over and has them sit in 3 distinct chairs that are really fucking tall.
Yeah, like they're couches, but they have like the backs of the couches are like 10 feet tall.
Like not exaggerating, like literally 10 feet tall. And so he ends up he's like, you see that lady over there, and you see this lady schmoozing up on this like fat, greasy guy, and he's like, she can get whatever she wants from him. So she brings the fat schlubby guy over to them. Turns out that guy is a cop who's on bad dude's payroll.
And it's like, okay, let's retire to the private lounge for a private conversation.
So this leads to one of like the most horrifying aspects of this movie.
Yeah, because
like something that was like legitimately in Game of Thrones as like a really fucked up moment.
Because like it's just this weird jarring shift in tone just momentarily where Verone is trying to set up a way for him to get his money and his drugs out of the city without the cops knowing. So he decides to strong arm this dirty cop into making sure that this works, but also surreptitiously intimidating the new duo into not fucking with him. So what he does, he has the fat cop played by Bart Boone Jr., who you might know from 30 Days a Night or Sons of Anarchy.
I can see it.
So he takes a blowtorch, a bucket, and a rat.
And they they rip his shirt open, they put it on his stomach, and then, basically threaten to heat up the pail so the rat will get hot, try to get out, and like dig his way through his belly.
Burrow through a living person.
Like I said, that they killed people like that in fucking Game of Thrones.
So like he's strong arming the guy. He's like, hey, we're gonna have this rat in your belly if you don't cooperate, and we're gonna send the rat to eat your family too. And so like the guy caves and he gives in. He'll make a way to keep the police blockade away, so he gets all the drugs and goods out of the city.
He'll give him a 15-minute window.
And then Roman's like, what the fuck is up with this guy? We shouldn't be doing this, man. He's crazy.
Yeah, and then it's like this weird conflict because then they're like, he's like, did you see how fucking Eva Mendes was looking at? She was getting off to it, and I'm just like, I didn't see jack shit. She was kind of stoic the entire time.
And she's kind of stoic for a good bit of the movie.
Yeah, which I don't think is all on her.
No, it's more so like when you don't really have much to do other than to sort of stand around, you look kind of stoic too.
Yeah, she just looks fucking bored. And honestly, I don't blame her. So, after this, things get kind of jumbled. Like, there's a scene
because they go back to Tej's garage,
because that's where they're staying. Is at this like little boathouse.
Yeah, because Tej because his garage is on the river, and there's a boathouse that they're staying at, and I feel like they're trying to rationalize. Oh wow, this is getting pretty hot and heavy right now, but also we need to do this so both of our rap sheets get wiped clean, which is why they're in this whole conversation to begin with, so they can just kind of get away scot-free from like their past mistakes.
Yeah, so they go back to the little boatfront property, and Eva Mendes shows up in like a fucking midriff tank top.
Yeah, which is like, because she's all dressed in the nine, but suddenly she's just like, I got my baseball shirt on, but it's tied underneath my boobies.
Yeah, and she comes to warn them that, surprise, surprise, Verone's going to kill them when they do their job.
What? The drug lord's going to double cross them?
What?
The bastard.
So she's like, oh yeah, they didn't see me, I snuck out. Smash cut to 2 of Verone's goons right outside the door looking for him.
It's just like, oh fuck. Because you have like another kind of loser dude, and also but one of the goons looks like handsome Squidward.
He does. His like head is so bulbous, it's like 2/3 of a circle.
It's like it kind of peeks out over his ears. Like he's just they're both just gruff badass dudes. But once I made that connection in my head, it's like, wow, he looks even more silly.
Yeah.
Tyrese is mad, just like, she's here again.
Yeah, so then they have to hide her. they end up escaping, but then they have a confrontation with the two goons that is like it's unironically like the scene in The Office where they have the finger guns pointing at each other. Like Brian gets a gun and he's pointing at one guy, and then the other guy has a gun at Tyrese, and they're just screaming, "Put the gun down! Put the gun down! No, you put the gun down!" Ah!
But it's funny because before this scene, Tyrese is having like this great, like off the top of his head, just like banter bullshit, kind of like picking at the goons for just showing up out of nowhere, and then it cuts to them like yelling at each other over these guns with more like fear and urgency that I've ever seen them put out in the movie, where they're like frantically, "Put the gun down!" It's like
and it builds to this fucking crescendo of just like a cacophony of just toxic male screaming, just male screeching, and then of course old Tony Montana light comes up and he's like, "Oh, cut it off, okay, blah blah blah."
Yeah, you're going to ride with my two boys, you're going to get my dirty money, and then we're going to go to the rendezvous point.
Yeah, so some other stuff happens.
Yeah, because as they're getting ready to go do that, they have one last meetup with Ted, Suki, and the gang. It's like, okay, we got to finalize our plan. We got our cards. We know what we got to do. We got to go get the money. So here's the secret plan. They start like whispering, and it cuts to like them walking around, getting a scope on some places they'll come into importance later.
Yeah.
So they hop in the car with the two goons. They go down to like some dirt trailer park.
Yeah.
And then the goons bust open a wall to get all the money out. Which is to this movie, but it's just funny that these guys literally have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. They stuff it in the duffel bags and just toss it around like it's full of styrofoam, when they should be probably weighing hundreds of pounds, because money is heavy.
Yeah, like,
I mean, these are all like swolesome dudes, but like you can't just toss a 200 bag of money just like it's full of like paper. I mean, regular paper.
Yeah, well, I mean, so yeah, they throw it in the back, and then they're on their way. And something we forgot to mention earlier, there's a scene earlier where, right before all this stuff goes down, where Brian and Roman are having a heart-to-heart, and it was like, he's like, I didn't rat you out, my dude, blah blah blah. And then we get the reason why Roman is hungry the entire movie.
He's stealing people's burritos. He's munching on a random chocolate bar, which we assume he just found on the pier.
Yeah,
because that's where they find everything that they weren't disclosed with in the scene before. It's just in the dirt, and it's just like, oh, look at this.
Yeah. So like he's like, oh, the food on the inside fucking sucks. I just want to eat as much food out here as I can before we inevitably go to jail. Blah blah blah. Smash cut back to the plot.
Yeah, that's us smash cutting back to the plot, not the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So we smash cut back to the plot, and so they're driving along, and the guy ultimately doesn't give them the 15-minute window. The cop he decides it's better that he stick up for his morals, I guess, whatever morals those be. And so the local police department gets involved, which fucks with everybody.
Because you just had like a swarm of cop cars just like roll into town, and they roll towards the dirt trailer park. So they're just like, oh fuck, the cops. And so like Tyrese has a quick moment of thinking where he puts the cinder block in one of their go-go trucks and just like plows it through the cops, and they all kind of scurry away with the money. With Tyrese and one of the goons, and then Paul Walker and Hanson Squidward in the other car, with the money split up and just start going off down the road. And you just had like fucking like cartoon comedy cops just like spilling off the side of the road, just like just zipping around trying to chase them. And then didn't we see the return of the sci-fi claw launcher bazookas?
Yeah, it's the fucking normal Miami police department and their fucking helicopters, and they end up shooting Paul Walker's car. And he has to do this thing where he works with old handsome Squidward to pull the little thing out.
But he's a racist at the time, because if once all three prongs activate, it deactivates the cars. You just have like the one cop in the helicopter. He's like looking at his screen. It's like 1 prong 2, it's ready to go. And they managed to pry it out and flicking at some other guy's car, and it was just like promptly fucks up the whole chase sequence. His car fries, and then like 15 cars crash into his ass.
Yeah, so they get to this area where they met with Tej earlier, and meanwhile, like the feds are paying attention to this as well. So they're like, "Oh fuck, how are they got him cornered? What the fuck we're going to do?" So then it's a bunch of like garage doors. Then they open, and just a fucking tsunami of just trucks and cars and shit just go everywhere.
Because Paul and Tyree, we never call them by their actual character name in this goddamn show, but like this is the first name that comes to mind. They ride into the garage and open and close, and then literally like you kick over an anthill, like 200 candy-colored cars just come spilling out, and it's like apparently Tej got everybody who came to his street racing to get a car and start driving off. But then we see familiar faces. We see Slapjack. We see Orange Julius. We see Suki's girl gang. They all drive out in their cars and just scramble the police.
So they lose them, but they think they found them. So they pull them over. And who's in these cars? Tej and Suki.
It's like what they swapped the cars because now Brian and Roman, they're in the muscle cars that they won in that second race. So they're driving off towards the rendezvous point, which is at an airport, which is why they have the other feds stationed at the airport ready to jump. But then things start to get a little fuzzy because we're getting close. They know they're about to be double crossed. They think there's going to be shenanigans. But because one of the goons tries to attack Roman's like, "Psych, bitch," hits a button and launches his ass out of the car with NOS powered ejector seat.
Bye, bitch. Bye, Felicia.
Just like, bye. And so they're going to be like, "Hey, we're just going to take the money and fuck the bad guy." But then Paul Walker's about to blow Hanson Squibber out of the car. But then he's like, okay. Then Hanson is like, "Okay, go over here down this road." It's like, wait a minute, we were going to meet in the airport. It's like, we never said anything about meeting at an airport. And then so he eases off the trigger button. It goes off to like this shady little port where we see Verone and Eva Mendes and the rest of the bad guys crew there. It's like, wait a minute, what's all this about?
Yeah, and turns out that he only told one person about the airport. And that was Eva Mendes. It's like,
It was the bad guy was a swerve, so he figured out Eva was with the feds the whole time. So he scoops her bored ass up out of the car with just a shotgun. He just pulls out of his ass,
like literally, he drops his pants and just pulls it out of his butthole
because like he didn't have that shotgun when he walked out of the car, and suddenly he just has this fat ass gun just pointed at her head, and so fuck. Paul Walker calls Cyrus over the walkie-talkie. He's like, "Oh man, we got tricked. Get back over here." So he fires his car all the way over there, and like they get into a big scuffle with Hanson Squibbard, and like he doesn't take a punch for anything. He just won't sell. They literally have to stomp his ass out in the dirt before they finally like, oh wait, we got to catch the boat that the bad guy's getting away on.
Yeah. So then Tyrese shows up. And, it's like an Indiana Jones. Da, 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 da. So Tyrese and Paul Walker get in the car, and they're like, "Oh fuck!" And Tyrese looks at Paul Walker. He's like, "You're not going to do what I think you're going to do. I'm totally going to do what you think I'm going to do." So they fucking ramp up. They crash into the boat, which apparently was in one take.
Yeah, because they didn't want to mash the whole boat because they had one take to Dukes of Hazzard this car up into the air and to meet the boat and crash. But apparently they replaced a lot of the top parts of the boat with plastic, so it wouldn't be as much to reconstruct. But one take, one and done. They fucking ride that car into the boat and smash the top of it. And everybody's just like, "Oh, I'm so fucked up." Tyrese is like, "I broke my arm." And Paul Walker's like, "I might have broke my head."
Yeah, so there's ultimately a shootout. They shoot the bad guy, but he doesn't die. The feds show up. Everything's hunky-dory. Yeah, they save the day.
Because the bad guy goes down with not a fight at all.
Nah, he just gets shot once, and he just goes down like a little bitch.
But he's just like, "Yeah, I might be getting arrested, but we'll see you again soon, kid." And it's like, nah, No, we won't ever see you again.
Nah. Swerve. He's the whole villain this entire time.
Yeah. Imagine if his ass rolls up in Fast and Furious 10. It's like, I'm back for revenge, Tyrese, when he just has like this bionic shoulder with like a robot arm, about to flex and punch somebody.
I wouldn't put it past him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because another fancy booking for Fast and Furious 10, they just do like Doctor Strange portals, and like everybody who's ever driven a car in the Fast and Furious just peels out. They're ready for the big race, the end all races.
And instead of the Avengers Assemble line, Vin Diesel looks at the camera and says, "Family, let's go."
It's like, I don't have friends, I have family.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
What does that mean, Vin Diesel?
Who knows? So yeah, they talk with Dexter's dad, and it's like, so our records are clean. He's like, you held up your end of the bargain. Your records are clean. And so they're like, well, we were going to rip you off, but here's the extra bags of money that have the rest of the evidence. And they're like, and it's like, y'all are some cool dudes. And then they walk off, and then they start talking, and turns out their pockets ain't empty.
Oh, was it the thing they said earlier in the movie? It's a little throwback, and so like Tyrese pulls up his shirt, and he's like, his pants are just like loaded down with these fat wads of cash.
And then credits, I think, right?
Yeah, that's the end of it. They saved the day. They didn't get the girl, surprisingly.
Yeah, she just kind of just fucks off.
Just like, well, I didn't want to have sex with you anyway. Bye.
Yeah, so it's like, we're going to open a garage together. Blah blah blah. Spoiler alert: that doesn't happen. But
unless there's some interpol that we haven't been made privy to yet. So they saved the day. They got the money. They're getting away to live their life of slightly law-abiding hoodlums. So that comes to the end of the movie, and which I guess leads to our sort of final thoughts, final impressions, ultimate sort of resolutions with the film. So what did you think of Too Fast, Too Furious?
It's not a good movie, I'll say that. Like, because the first one, the more I think about it, it's a solid movie. It's not great, but it's good. This one is definitely bad. It's not good. But that being said, it is so fun. Like, in a lot of ways, even more so than the first movie, just because of the abundance of fun, stupid shit. Like, we hungry. Smack that ass. It's a Hoasis in here. Like, come on. That's like 3 T-shirts waiting to happen right there.
I'd be surprised they weren't made it. So if not, we have to call Teesprings now or something. Yeah. T. But like we said, like there's still a lot of fun to be had in this one. But I do feel like its shortcomings are even more obvious when compared even to the first one.
Yeah.
Which. To me, like, it's not enough to, like, hamper your enjoyment, but, like, I can't really give it that same sort of fun nod like I could the first one. Because, like, there are, like, some kind of really clunky parts of the movie.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't recommend this to someone who's not already invested in this franchise, and they've already watched it by now.
Or at the very least, like, has a level of sort of detachment that can have fun with a bad movie, because like I can see where this could be like just insipid and just painful to watch too.
Yeah, like if you don't find like the stuff we find funny, yeah, I can imagine this would just be fucking mind-numbingly awful experience. But I don't regret watching it. No. I don't regret buying it on Blu-ray. I mean, it was like fucking $5. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, that's not money you're really going to regret. But ultimately, I probably give it like very appropriately a 2 out of 5.
The same. And like I have more detailed thoughts on Letterboxd if you want to read that. I don't know. It was, like I said, it's fun. It's oddly not as much as Tokyo Drift that we'll get to next time, but this one is oddly more, like, so segregate from the rest of the franchise. I mean, you could watch it as sort of a standalone.
Yeah, honestly, because it feels so much in a vacuum.
Yeah, because like it's not connected to any of the like the previous or the later movies. It has a completely different tone and different style altogether. So if you just want like a fun bad movie, check this one out. You won't be disappointed in that regard.
That's right. And like we said earlier in the show, like as sort of clunky as this one is, the bright spots really are sort of like there are some fun like driving and action in it, and like we said, Paul Walker and Tyrese, they have a genuine fun chemistry in the movie that really carries through, and like that makes the movie even that much easier to go through.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, I mean, the unironic fun parts are significantly outweighed by the ironically funny bits. So, that's Too Fast, Too Furious, Too Hungry.
Too Fast, Too Furious, too ready for the next installment.
Yes, because you ready? Because that fucking soundtrack gonna be bopping.
Not to give too much away, but Tokyo Drift is fun. So look forward to that one in a month's time. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Fast and Furious Files. We do appreciate. Join us on this new journey to another episode 9, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the ride. So you can follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, any RSS feed catcher. We're there. We're giving out our story and our banter. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe on all those platforms. It really helps us out, keeps the show going, and just really keeps the show alive. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AYCH Podcast. You can follow us on Letterboxd and Facebook at AllYouCanHear. And follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/AllYouCanHear. And follow us on YouTube as well, also at AllYouCanHear. You can follow me, Patrick, on Instagram and Twitter at John Lost His Name. Follow my art on Facebook at John Lost His Name Art.
And my name is Jonathan. You can follow me on Twitter at JONIIBOI24 and JohnOnson12 on Letterboxd. And everybody, make sure you visit your local Oasis and you smack that ass.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll be talking to you soon.
Vroom vroom.